Alright guys, today's July 7th and it's time to talk about some specifics regarding Tropical Storm Beryl. It's currently in the western Gulf of Mexico as a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm. It's been struggling to get its act together since leaving the Yucatan. It lost a bit of its core when it left the Yucatan, and then it had some dry air intrusion into its core. So the mid-level center and the low-level center were detached, and it's been struggling to get them back together again, and also to get that dry air mixed out of its core. So, in the past few hours, there has been a lot of convective bursts around the center of the storm, so it's trying to get its act together. So I want to show you a few of the hurricane models forecasts. This is the HWRF hurricane model, usually considered one of the best we have. And what it does with Beryl is that it continues it northwestward, and then around tonight, by around midnight tonight, it starts to intensify Beryl, not rapidly, but at a steady pace, more so than it has been in the final hours before landfall, bringing it down to around 970 millibars early tomorrow morning as it makes landfall near Matagorda Bay. And this is the HAFS A hurricane model. It brings it to the east of Matagorda Bay early tomorrow morning and also deepens it down to around 975 millibars, which would be equal to about a Category 1 hurricane. And then looking at the HAFS B hurricane model, it also brings it down to around 975 millibars, maybe a little bit less, to the east of Matagorda Bay. So all three of these hurricane models are showing about a Category 1 hurricane making landfall near Matagorda Bay or a little bit to its east early tomorrow morning on July 8th. And so now what I want to show you is the high resolution models. So we're going to be looking at the HRRR model, looking at the reflectivity, and then looking at rainfall amounts and wind gusts. So this isn't a hurricane model, so it's not going to be perfectly accurate in terms of intensity and location, but it does a pretty good job. It brings the first set of rain bands into southern portions of Texas and southeastern Texas this afternoon on July 7th, and by around 7-8 p.m. tonight local time, it starts to bring more widespread showers and thunderstorms into portions of the southeast Texas coast, with the core of the storm moving into Matagorda Bay closer to midnight tonight. And that's when we could get some pretty strong wind gusts, extremely heavy rainfall as this core starts to move on shore. It's pretty small, so mostly from Matagorda Bay over to the west of Houston. That's where the most strongest wind should occur and the heaviest rainfall as this storm starts to make landfall beyond midnight tonight. And then the HRRR model has it making landfall around 4 in the morning, local time, overnight tonight, into early tomorrow morning to the east of Matagorda Bay. That's where it looks like a lot of the models are showing that's where the landfall location now, right around Matagorda Bay or a little bit to its east. And then as this storm is making landfall, huge amounts of rainfall from Houston down towards Matagorda and points to the north. Widespread flash flooding threat out of this. I'll show you the rainfall amounts in a bit. But when hurricanes make landfall, as they start to move inland, they still have what's called a feeder band, which is on its eastern flank as that onshore wind is still coming in off of the warm ocean water. It usually causes a very intense, long-lived rain band of extremely heavy rain and high wind on its eastern side, and that's what the HRRR model is showing that could happen tomorrow. And what makes this even worse is that it shows it happening almost right over the Houston metro area, starting tomorrow morning. So after this storm makes landfall, we could get a feeder band that develops and produces extremely heavy rainfall amounts for several hours, right across the Houston metro, and even to the points east of that, going into far eastern Texas. So as we get into tomorrow afternoon, the HRRR is showing that feeder band moves a little bit further to the east, going a little bit to the east of Houston by the afternoon hours, into far eastern portions of Texas, bringing extremely heavy rainfall amounts. And also on this eastern side, when you have that higher wind shear on that eastern flank, you get the embedded tornadoes and supercells. So that's another thing we have to be on the lookout tomorrow across eastern Texas and far western Louisiana. But even going into tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, you can see that feeder band is still over portions of far eastern Texas and right near the Louisiana border, where the core of the storm is pushing inland into eastern Texas. And then even into tomorrow night almost, we still have a pretty large swath of thunderstorms along that feeder band right there along the eastern Texas coast and right around Houston also. And with that main core of the storm pushing into portions of northeastern Texas, western Arkansas, and eastern Oklahoma, where we could have some pretty intense rainfall rates there. And inland flooding could be a huge possibility for eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, and western Arkansas as the whole core of this storm starts to move inland tomorrow night. And then going into the overnight hours into Tuesday morning, the center of the storm moves over Arkansas, and we could still get a lot of extremely heavy rainfall over portions of northern Arkansas and Missouri. Not much of a flash flood threat, but could be more of a long duration aerial flooding going on. And then looking at rainfall totals with this storm, you can see the highest totals are along the southeast Texas coast, east of the landfall location. So it's going to make landfall somewhere around here, but all the points to the east of that is where we could get the heaviest rainfall to occur, all the way to the Louisiana border. And especially you can see right where that feeder band is forecasted to sit, right near the Houston metro. I'm growing increasingly concerned for a major flash flooding threat for the Houston metro because of this potential for a feeder band to move right over the city tomorrow morning. We could be talking about 2 to 3 inch per hour rainfall rates out of this. That's why we have rainfall totals forecasted in the 15 as high as 15 inches possible, where this feeder band gets situated right along the southeast Texas coast. But many areas in southeast Texas could begin 5 to 10 inches of rainfall, so the whole entire area is in the potential for some pretty major flash flooding, and especially where that feeder band sets up. And then moving over an urban area like Houston, it could be a potentially disastrous situation. Let's hope it doesn't pan out like that, but the potential is certainly there. And then the rest of eastern Texas, I'm still getting about 4 to 7 inches of rainfall, so that's why I'm concerned about a lot of inland flooding with this still over eastern Texas, even into Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma. Still getting about 4 to 6 inches of rainfall there, so we can still get. That's why I'm also concerned about inland flooding for portions of Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, and then beyond that, moving into Missouri and points to the northeast. And then I want to zoom in on southeastern Texas when looking at some of these wind gust forecasts. Now, this is just one model, the HRRR model, but it usually handles these wind gusts pretty well. So as Tropical Storm Beryl, or what could be Hurricane Beryl, makes landfall tonight, the core of the strongest winds will be right near that eyewall, where we could have wind gusts of over around 90 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour, possible right near the eyewall location. But once you get towards Galveston, wind gusts around 60 miles per hour possible. And as this storm starts to move inland a bit, could easily get wind gusts approaching 70 miles per hour for Galveston, 60 to 70 miles per hour for Houston. And then to the west of that, getting wind gusts as high as 80 miles per hour. And as this storm starts to move inland tomorrow morning, as the core of that storm gets close to the Houston metro, could get gusts close to 70 miles per hour hurricane force in the Houston metro area tomorrow morning. And then areas that get in that feeder band around Galveston or points to the east, we could easily get gusts in the 60 to 70 miles per hour range inside those embedded storms and supercells within that feeder band. And you could also get some embedded tornadoes within that feeder band also. So I'm very concerned about far southeastern Texas tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. Could be a pretty high impact situation with flooding and tornadoes, potentially with flooding, tornadoes, and high winds in that feeder band tomorrow. But still, as that core moves, areas near the center of that storm still get gusts over 70 miles per hour to the northwest of Houston, going over towards College Station, Huntsville, Texas, getting close to 70 miles per hour gusts, until we finally start to see a little bit of weakening tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, but could still get some gusts over 60 miles per hour as the center of Beryl moves inland over northeastern Texas. And then so zooming in on northeastern Texas as the core of Beryl moves in, looking at the wind gusts. Here we go, moving over towards Tyler, Texas, getting gusts over 50 to 60 miles per hour. Dallas, Fort Worth should begin about gusts as high as about 40. Nothing terrible, but certainly some gusty situations out there. And as that core of the storm moves into Arkansas, we could get gusts in the 40 to 50 miles per hour range into portions of northern Louisiana and into Arkansas. And then lastly, I want to talk about the tornado potential as Beryl moves inland. So this is looking at the significant tornado parameter, or about where we have the best overall environment to see tornadoes. And then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, we get a flare-up of these numbers across far eastern Texas and right near the Louisiana border, showing that that's where we have the best potential to see some tornadoes out of this. And as we go into tomorrow night, it moves a little bit to the north, bringing that tornado potential to northern Louisiana, and then even into portions of northeastern Louisiana and southeastern Arkansas, going into the overnight hours, into very early on Tuesday morning. And then into the day Tuesday, we could see a little bit of that tornado potential across the western Tennessee Valley and the lower Ohio Valley. And then looking at the helicity swaths from the HRRR, it's showing some decent rotation tracks across portions of eastern Texas, western Louisiana, even as far north as Little Rock, Arkansas. Nothing too crazy, but this is the potential. It's showing the potential for some low-end tornadoes there, basically for anywhere from Houston to Shreveport and as far north as Little Rock, Arkansas, through the day on Tuesday, and then beyond that, it'll move a little bit to the northeast. And so beyond Tuesday, the remnants of Beryl move up into portions of Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. And as it does so, it'll bring a swath of pretty heavy rainfall in that area there, bringing the potential for flooding. So I want to compare some of the models showing rainfall amounts going through midweek. Looking at the GFS model, showing a swath of 2 to 4 inches possible across portions of Missouri into Illinois, northern Indiana, and into southern lower Michigan. And also moving into portions of New England as the remnants of the storm make a turn eastward into New England. And then the Icon model is very similar to the GFS, with that swath of 2 to 4 inches of rainfall across Illinois, Indiana, and into Michigan, and a little bit further north into northern New England. The European model is a little bit to the east, but almost into the exact same spot. So a lot of model agreement. That portions of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and lower Michigan are going to get a swath of pretty heavy rainfall into the Tuesday and Wednesday, and more like Wednesday into early Thursday for the Great Lakes region, where we could have a period of very heavy rainfall, bringing total rainfall amounts of 2 to 4 inches. Places like St. Louis, Indianapolis, Springfield, Illinois, Detroit, Lansing, Michigan, probably I think the heaviest rain will be just to the east of Chicago. And then looking at forecast wind gusts from the European model as the remnants of Beryl move inland, going into Wednesday afternoon, just some 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts possible across the Tennessee and Ohio valleys there. And then going into Thursday, portions of the eastern Great Lakes into the northeast, 30 to 45 mile per hour gusts there too, as the remnants of Beryl move through. And then the last thing I want to show is the potential for thunderstorms as the remnants of Beryl move northward, because as it does so, it'll bring an area of enhanced wind shear on its eastern flank, which combined with the heat and humidity, we could be talking about some low-top supercells developing on its eastern side, bringing a potential for tornadoes on Tuesday and Wednesday. So starting off with Tuesday, the European model is showing the remnants of Beryl located over Arkansas, and we have thunderstorm potential there across eastern Arkansas into the western Tennessee Valley and lower Ohio Valley, showing thunderstorms here. So we could be talking about a low-end tornado threat in that area I have circled there. Places like Memphis, Nashville, Paducah, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, maybe as far northeast as Cincinnati. We could be talking about a low-end tornado threat. And as that storm moves east, going into Wednesday, as the center of the storm should be located over Indiana and lower Michigan, but that eastern side where we have some of that enhanced wind shear, we could be talking about some low top supercells potentially possible there Wednesday afternoon across eastern Ohio, northern Virginia, perhaps western central Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Just something to keep an eye on going into midweek as the remnants of Beryl bring a chance of a low-end tornado threat for the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. So with that being said, I hope everyone stays safe with the storm, and I hope you have a good one, guys. See you next time.